Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for being here. I'm Lara Habib. I present business news on Arabiya news channel. What we have just seen is just a glimpse of how technology is affecting the luxury market in every aspect, from production to sales and definitely marketing. Not long ago, luxury companies thought that clients wouldn't buy expensive products online. However, the success of websites like Net-a-Porter proved them wrong, having 4 million followers on social media and registering annual sales exceeding $800 million. On the production side, the technological advancements are well manifested in products like smartwatches, smart apparel, and 3D printed fashion items. Are these major threats to their traditional luxurious counterparts, or just a fad catering for different types of digital savvy consumers? When it comes to marketing, the new reality imposed by fashion bloggers with millions of followers and the long hours spent online by luxury consumers is forcing luxury brands to rethink their media strategies. To join this conversation, I'm pleased to have with me on stage today experts representing different sides of the luxury market. To my left is Jean-Pierre Calvez, Vice President, Marketing for Europe, Middle East, and Africa at HP. We have Kolia Neveux next to him. You have fans?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah.
We have Kolia Neveux, General Manager at Heuer.
One like. Sorry.
We have Manal Khater, Regional Strategy Director at Atelier, Burnett. Hanan, Huwair, or Zaraoni, Executive Director at Dubai Design District, D3. And Daniel Bowers, International Strategy Director at OMD London. I would like to mention that this session is streamed online, so it's not an off-the-record session. And this is an interactive session, so I would be taking your questions regularly throughout this debate. So, Jean-Pierre, let me start with you. Probably the most interesting part about this session would be about the innovations that we're seeing. 3D printing, smart clothes, smart watches, Internet of Things. Which one is, in your opinion, a cutting-edge technology that will reshape the luxury market?
Well, I think they're all cutting-edge technologies that are reshaping every aspect of the luxury markets, or actually more than just the luxury markets. And from customer relationships to product design to communications with customers to brands to prototyping to creating products that are unique because they're 3D printed for just one customer, technology is affecting the whole range of relations that we can have with customers and partners. So it's not just one area that is cutting edge. I think increasingly we see the combination of data, manufacturing technologies, social media, bringing different conditions to those markets.
Let me ask Hanan. Hanan, you are creating a smart city in D3. And probably that will rely extensively on the Internet of Things, and this is the language of the machines. Can you tell us more about this?
So, to start with, we're very honored to have Design District chosen by His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, the ruler of Dubai, to have Design District to be the pilot for a smart city for Dubai. So it's becoming the smartest spot on earth. That's what we're aiming for. And whatever is done in Design District will be cascaded back to Dubai. So that's a huge honor and a huge challenge. Now, what we've noticed is in the design industry and the luxury industry and the creative industry, this creativity and this emergence of technologies that interconnect into our lives is playing a huge, huge role in how we perceive things, how we connect to things, how to even controlling our aesthetics, our buying decisions. So we've noticed that it's hugely important to have this done in Design District as at the pilot stage with the creative industry. There's a study by Gartner that says by 2025 we'll have around 50 billion devices connected to each other. We'll have 4 billion people connected to each other as well. We're expecting more than 25 plus applications out there. We will have more than 25 trillion amount of data flowing in between these devices and people. So how do we use that? How do we leverage on that? How to utilize it as an individual, as a business, as a government, and so on, is what drove us to create this strategy to make design district smart. And the whole element of smart, which is very important to note of why we're going smart, is basically literally utilizing these technologies and this infrastructure that we have in order to enrich people's life. Whether it be a visitor, whether it be a consumer, or a buyer, or a retailer, or a business. So this enrichment of life and experience is what we're aiming for. And I think this hugely applies also into the luxury world as well.
So what are we going to see exactly in D3? Are we going to see smart mirrors, a connected store?
So, we're trying to create a journey. So a smart journey for anyone walking in. So from the moment you wake up and you say, I want to go to Design District, it's smart. So you open up an app and you say, I want to go to this store, this is where it's going on. It tells you exactly what bus to take. It could actually call it for you. You walk in, traffic routes you to where you need to go. It tells you, we know parking is a huge issue in Dubai, right? So we're hoping to work out an app that tells you this is the parking, it's allocated to you, and this is how you go to it. And once you walk out, there is digital signages everywhere that customize to you and market to you as who you are, and then directs you to where you go. We will have currently, and I'm proud to say that, we have 3D facial recognition access controls within the buildings of our city. So when you walk in, you don't need to bring out an ID or a card. It literally, if you're registered with the city, it recognizes you and walks you in immediately. And then it allows you and tells you what things you love and directs you there. We will have Wi-Fi all across the city that is connected. It will tell us as city owners who's there, when they're there, what they're interested in, which stores they walk into, which elements or pieces they love. We're looking as well at sustainability and giving back to the environment. So the offices, we're working towards making it really smart. So it identifies you from the moment you walk into the city that this person is coming in. So it presets up your office to the setup that you like. You walk in, everything is set up. You want to leave, and let's say you forgot to close whatever, the light or everything. It literally goes and controls the rooms and dims the lights and the power and everything to the setting that is most efficient, or even close it down if it identifies that you left and you're over for the day. We're looking at autonomous cars within the city, so it's really economical and environment friendly, and helps with the new wave of being smart and being sustainable within the city. We're also looking at safety and security is a huge aspect in Dubai. So with being smart and connected and your information being everywhere, we're being very careful in how we deploy also security and safety. So we want you to walk in within the city knowing that your information is out there, but you're really safe and secure.
And that moves us to the question of privacy.
Yeah.
So many consumers might be worried about the issue of privacy. They would say that all of this information is available now to the store. It's like the real-life cookies. What do you think, Manal?
Information.
I want Manal. Do you want to answer this? I want Manal to answer this question, and then, please, if you have anything to add.
No, but just to build on that point, I think it's a very fine line between them knowing more about you than you know yourself. You walk in, they know your size exactly, they know what you're like, they know what you bought yesterday, where you were this morning. So it's a bit freaky, I would say. But then again, people are posting all of that on Facebook and on Instagram and everywhere else. So I think we let go a bit of our privacy in that sense. But there is definitely a big responsibility from corporations not to use that information in a way that's either a bit intrusive or send you more information than you would like yourself. But also in technology, there's the app that's called It's by Google, where it helps you write your emails better. I forget what it's called now, but it basically knows so much about you from everything that you're done on the internet. So it tells you how to communicate with people better based on your previous writings, based on everything you've done. So I think it's still a fine line between knowing too much and knowing enough to please the consumer. So it's just how you use it.
Anyway, Google knows you probably more than your mother.
I'm
so
sure.
do you want to add anything?
Data is very huge. That it's on Dubai level. They're working out a law of how data can be shared, how data can be classified, so that they protect your rights. But as she said, it's just not also the data that you're sharing. Now there are technologies that build intelligence on these data and actually predicts what you want. It tells you what you want, which is sometimes a good thing, sometimes not. So it's always, it's an open thing that how you use it and how to customize the experience and the data is really, really important.
It's a balance between intrusion and utility, I would say. So as long as you're helpful with the information, then it's okay.
Let us go back to...
There was a term that was used yesterday, and I think it came from a luxury conference in Florence a few weeks ago, that said, we want butlers, not stalkers. And we want the technology to cater to our needs, but we don't want to be spooked by the technology.
Exactly. Let me move now to Daniel. Daniel, I know you're someone who's interested in 3D printing. We're talking here about a technology that will allow the consumer, from the comfort of his home, to design and print jewelry or fashion. How much do you think this is the future for accessory, for the watches or jewelry markets, or even apparel?
Well, I think it goes way, way beyond the luxury market, as Jean-Pierre said. I think that the opportunities for kind of instantaneous, customised, completely bespoke designs, be it in jewellery, be it in smartwatches, be it in fashion, are absolutely vast. And I think the ability that 3D printing gives you to completely bespokely create a personalised product is something that's going to be incredibly appealing to people in the luxury market. I think, if I'm honest, they don't feel like perfect pairing. You know, you've got the craftsmanship and the beautiful kind of quality of creating these amazing luxury goods. And then on the other hand, you've got a printer that's got quite limited materials at the moment, metals, plastic, and it's almost like a do-it-yourself activity that happens instantaneously. And it's sort of at odds a little bit with the luxury market. But I do think it can play a really, really interesting role in prototyping, in creating kind of patterns. And I think that increasingly the experience that people have within stores as they order the products is going to become more and more important. I think 3D printing can add to that experience. You know, imagine if you have the ability to be part of designing your piece of jewellery, let's say. I think there's a Paris jewellery designer called Jabelet that are doing this. They're creating kind of wax moulds. You can sit down with a consultant and a designer and create these amazing, completely bespoke bits of jewellery. And then a craftsman will then go away and create it in whatever precious metal it might be in. But it's really enhancing the brand experience, and it almost becomes part of the luxury brand ritual that you have with that jewellery company, which I think the more and more you can enrich the experience, the better. So I think, just in sum, massive implications in terms of production and manufacturing, but also I think it can build into the experience as well, which is incredibly important.
This issue is very visible when it comes to the watch industry. Kolia, your own Jean-Claude Biver has described the Apple Watch as the biggest threat to traditional watches. Heuer has went far away from Switzerland and collaborated with Google and Intel to launch its smartwatch. How would you compete with a name like Apple?
There are a few points on this. We are not competing because Apple is Apple. Apple is a big company. We are just offering an alternative, an option. Okay. We are watchmakers since 1860. Our DNA is being Swiss avant-garde. And how can we pretend to be avant-garde if we are not able to enter this new market? It's also a new market, a new type of customers. We have a wide generation. Till today, they are not wearing any watches. They are using their cell phones as a watch. Okay? So for us, we want also to gain new market shares, new customer, to renew the people that are tag aficionados. And if we are not able to propose a serious product that is based on a paradox, on a tension, like the ones you said, being a watchmaker, yet being into technology, And to do so, we have decided, Mr. Biver has decided, I'm not part of the decision process, but Mr. Biver and Mr. Simon have decided to go further in this market. It's a huge market, okay? Just for you to know.
What are the main challenges that you would be facing, in your opinion?
No, but first, the traditional market between I will speak in USD, between 500 USD and 1,500 USD will be at risk, because people who will divert from the traditional market to the new market. This is the first point. The second point, we need, just for you to know it, because I think the numbers are quite important. I know that you are really number sensitive. Apple will sell in a year alone the equivalent of what all the luxury brands are selling all together. The Swiss luxury brands are selling together.
20 million, I believe.
Something like this. So we need to be ready. Of course, we have a lot of discussions. We need to adapt, because for us it's a new world. We are really into intention, how to reach this technology world when you are working with tradition, with craftsmanship, with things that you know and that you are doing. You are doing the same things for 200 years. Okay, just for you to know, a spiral has been invented in 1740. Okay, we are still using it in our product, and now we need to bring on board engineers. We need to be really up. We need to be up to the new technologies. We need to adapt. We need to transform our production plants.
But will you work on the aesthetics? Because I want to mention something really that happened with me just yesterday night. I borrowed this from my friend, and this is a smartwatch, just for the sake of debate. I wanted to see if I would ever wear this instead of my traditional watch.
Yes.
And my husband, I was telling my husband, I'm going to get the smartwatch, and his reaction was, no, it's not nice on a girl's hand.
Yeah.
And this coming from my husband, that in 99% of cases, he doesn't care about fashion. So obviously aesthetics is a problem for these smartwatches. Are you working on that?
Yes, of course. And in many cases for ladies, a watch is more a jewel, okay? And ladies are buying more watches with battery than automatic watches, except in Asia. And they are really caring about the aesthetics. But to be successful, a smartwatch must be friendly, must have a design that is appealing, and the apps that are efficient and that serve the end user. So for ladies, I think we won't be maybe the most accurate brand and appealing brand, because we are quite strong for gents. But for gents, yes, I think we are working big time on the design, because this is where Tag Heuer can make the difference. Okay, we have maybe today, when you go in a shop, electronic shop, you have what, 50 brands of connected watch, 75, 100. So if you don't stand out with a design that is a luxurious design, using the best material, and on top of it adding features that are interesting, it will be extremely complicated. So it's a huge challenge, but I'm proud to announce that the first batch of Tag Heuer connected watch will be ready the 1st of November.
Okay. Best of luck.
Yeah, we'll see.
What do you think, Jean-Pierre? We've said that an estimated 20 million watches of Apple will be sold this year. I'm looking at the figures of some other traditional watchmakers. Fossil Group, we know that it produces watches for brands like Michael Kors, Tory Burch. They've announced a 7% decline in revenues in first quarter. What do you think? Do you think that the smartwatch will eventually kill the traditional watch?
I don't think they are mutually exclusive. You will have customers for traditional timepieces, and you will have customers that are more forward-looking that will want connected devices. It will depend on the value which is added by those connected devices to the user's lives, and in as much as possible, making those devices as unobtrusive as possible in the customer's life. You don't want to be looking at your wrist every 3 seconds because it vibrates, or because there's a little light blinking. It just needs to deliver the right information at the right time without being so obtrusive. But I think the two will coexist. And definitely there's a market for art technology, not just high technology, but art technology, where you will have timepieces that are traditionally crafted with digital functions. They're not necessarily visible to the end users, but are collecting data and enriching the users' lives without being obtrusive again.
Manal, what do you think? Why do you think there's such a buzz about the Apple Watch? It's not the first smartwatch in the market. Is it because it introduced the 17,000 gold version? Do you think that the Apple Watch is really redefining luxury?
I was reading an interview with the CEO of Tag in GQ magazine, just this one because it has a special on watches and jewelry. And he said something very interesting, that he kind of thanked Apple for doing it because it's going to introduce the watch to a younger generation. So these people who aren't used to wearing watches, they just look at their phone for their to know the time, they're now going to be wearing watches, so they're going to be used to having something on the wrist. And eventually when they grow older and when the taste has become a bit more sophisticated and maybe you're less about being connected with your watch and more connected to reality and the conversation that you're in the moment, they're going to want to move on to something different. So, I mean, Apple is Apple. It has the sex appeal. It has the right technology. So, of course, the watch is going to be successful. But there's a balance also between things that are timely and things that are timeless. And a watch, for me, is something more timeless. Apple is more timely. So the technology can go out of fashion. It's going to become obsolete. We know they're probably going to introduce an Apple Watch 2.0 5 months later, and people will have to keep on upgrading, whereas Patek Philippe lasts forever, and you merely pass it on for the next generation. So I think it's that balance between having something that's right now that can become obsolete very soon versus owning something that will live on for generations to come.
So you will not buy a smartwatch? You will not replace your
I'm
your
wearing
traditional
my father's watch that he's had for 45 years, and I don't think I'm going to, no, not an Apple Watch fan.
Daniel, what do you think? How should traditional watchmakers reposition themselves with this new reality?
That's a very tricky question, I think. Really, really tricky question, because it's the future. But I think that Apple are doing some really interesting things in terms of completely redefining what luxury watches could be. And, you know, maybe it's less and less about telling the time and more about the experiences that the smart device, maybe it's not a watch, maybe it's a piece of jewellery, can actually unlock for you. Imagine if you're wearing the Apple smart device or Apple Watch, and you go into a bar or a club or a restaurant and you get exclusive access into the VIP area just because you're wearing the Apple Watch. Suddenly it completely kind of challenges what the watch is for. It's no longer just for telling the time. And I think that's what's interesting. And I think that increasingly people will start to expect those type of kind of enhanced and personalised and seamless experiences from smart devices. And I think that there are certain categories out there like cameras, video cassette players, tape cassette players that found out the hard way of not fusing older techniques with newer kind of technologies and experiences. It's really interesting to hear that Tag are fusing the two worlds together. I don't think.
But when it comes to media strategies, do you advise your clients currently with this new reality to change their media strategies
based on smart technology?
Yes.
I think from an experience point of view, the smart technologies can make media or store experiences more personalised. We talked about privacy earlier on. Obviously, that if you can deliver the right value exchange to the consumer, they'll be quite happy to give you permission to kind of serve you up personalised messages and notifications and offers and the like. But yeah, I think that it's just an opportunity to make that communication and that experience much more personalised and timely and responsive to you and your needs, I think.
Kolia has something to add.
On a personal level, I've been extremely surprised by the strategy of Apple, which is, of course, clever, and they redefine the category. But what is interesting to see is that today, when you go to the restaurants with friends, we all put our cell phone 25, maybe 50 centimeters on the table from us, okay? with this new category of product, technology is on you. So
more space for food on the table.
No, but the thing is, the space between the device and the user has been shortened, and I think it's extremely important, because once you have it on you, you can't live without it. Today, can you survive without your cell phone for more than 24 hours?
20
Really difficult?
minutes. No.
20 minutes? You don't know what is happening with your mother in Ireland or in France. You don't know where are your kids, what your friends are doing. And from this perspective, I think we need to think about this also, the proximity between the device and the end user, and maybe the drawbacks. Yeah. But we need to say that they redefine the category in a way. But I'm still confident some products are timeless.
Hanan, let me move to the topic of e-commerce. E-commerce is very sensitive to luxury brands. We have seen brands like Celine still resisting to sell online. We have seen, on the other hand, Chanel, which famously resisted e-commerce, is now going to launch online sales. So, especially when it comes to the region where the consumer is getting younger by the day, the average age of the luxury consumer in the region is 20 years only. So do you think luxury brands are missing out and doing a huge mistake when they're not selling online?
See, when you look also on other numbers and statistics, there's a study by McKinsey that says that the luxury goods sales for in-stores in last year increased by 2%, whereas the online sales increased by 20%. And this is expected to increase furthermore to more than double in the next 5 years. So there's a huge market there that is being missed out if it's not tapped in. It's not just about online selling. It's now about the whole immersive experience that's going on. Now people are, 40% of purchases are said to be influenced by digital media. So the whole looking at the multi-channels that affect any purchasing powers, from researching on the cybernet or cyberspace, or looking who's the influencer in digital media, or going to the store and experiencing the physical products. It's very important for luxury brands, and any brands for that matter, to ensure they are into that world, because this is a path that we're going through. The mindset and the way people connect to things and the way people look at things and how their influence is definitely changing. So there's a huge market that you missed out if it's not. And it's very important what Manal says, the timely versus timeless. It's very important to always distinguish between these two things, that you have an overall brand image, prestige, exclusivity that they're trying to look into and say, this is what we are. And that's, I think, one of the most reasons they're like staying away from the mass market kind of a thing. But technology is now evolving in a way that allows you for that. It allows you to create this custom, bespoke experience online. So it's another channel. It's another store. It's another store that you have, which is a virtual store. So it's very important that it's not being overlooked.
I would ask Jean-Pierre about this issue, because obviously you help clients, you give them the platform to go online. But before we continue with the issue of e-commerce, I would like to take some questions from the audience. Please, if you have a question, introduce yourself. Please.
Hello, thank you so much. I'm working with Huwair. I have a question regarding this e-commerce, and how do you think that customer will go to the shop and to Chanel shop or any Huwair shop, and is going there to have a service, right? You don't go to Zara to have a service. You go to a luxury shop. So how do you think it can be transmitted online? This service that you're looking for when you're going to a luxury brand. I'm not talking about the service that you don't have when you go to Zara shop.
Are you addressing your question to someone specific, or who would like to answer that?
I can answer you about that. If you look at Hermès, for example, in their online experience, the store is built to kind of tell you the story and sell you the experience and the world of Hermès, but then it's meant to take you back to the store, because what they do online is only sell you a couple of products. So they sell you the dream, the story, the heritage, everything of Hermès in a very flirty and
Poetic way.
Sorry?
In poetic way.
Poetic way, exactly. But then they don't have all of their watches, they don't have all of their scarves, they don't have all of their bracelets, they don't have the bags that you're dying for on waiting lists. They take you back to the store to do all of that. So it's a balance between these two. But then again, if you look at a place like Net-a-Porter, which is purely online, you have the option to chat to stylists, you have the option to talk to somebody. So these people are fusing in the offline experience into their online experience. So now we talk about something called the omni-channel, so it's not really separated anymore. And I think the question of the experience, some people would much rather purchase when they're in bed, for example, versus going to the store and having to talk to somebody. So for them, this is much more appreciated than being chased by a salesperson.
Any other question?
And at the same time, you have some products that are being commoditized, even in luxury. You know what you want, you go online and get it. Another aspect of the issue is access. There are many cities in China, above 1 million people, where Cartier, Hermès, Vuitton may not be opening shops in the next year or 2 or 3 years. They can rely on e-commerce to fulfill demand in those areas.
We have another question, please.
Lorenzo Sicari, Bolt International Business School. I have a question for Kolia and Jean-Pierre. Given that Heuer is now developing into the tech watches, do you believe that your traditional competitors, such as, for example, Ulysse-Nardin or Riquet, for example, will follow up in this decision?
You are quite nice to compare Heuer with Ulysse-Nardin and Breguet, because they are two, especially Breguet, they are really big names and big reference in the world of watchmaking. I'm not so sure. It's not their core business. It's not their DNA. They based all their products on their know-how, patents, craftsmen. So for them, there's no use to go there. People will continue to buy Breguet. And people who can afford Breguet at 30,000 euros, he wants to buy something that will last. And usually is more mature. It doesn't belong to this new generation. The problem is with the new millionaire. In China, in Brazil, in the US, people coming from the Silicon Valley, they don't have this background, this education of watchmaking. So for those brands to survive and to develop, they will have to invest a lot into education, to educate the people and their potential customers to this world of old watchmaking. But for TAG, we have made the choice, and I think we're going to be avant-garde, as usual.
Or you may have companies that will develop functions based on their heritage. For example, a Breitling might develop a bracelet to go into the watch that gives you altitude if you're a pilot, that gives you barometric conditions. So very focused functions where you're getting relevant information, but you're not getting too much information. You're getting very, very focused information.
Yeah, you're right. Bulgari, for example, launched the magnesium, if I'm not mistaken. We have some Bulgari people in the room.
Can you confirm that?
Can you elaborate on this this watch? It's a mix. It's not really connected, but you have some features. Can you please tell us more about this? Come on, you're from Bulgaria, so.
Basically, the watch itself is not a gadget. It's 0% gadget. What it does, it unlocks the information that is stored on your phone. So you can move your phone, you can use, you can buy a new phone, but at the end of the day, without the watch, you can't access the app, and it's 100%. So at the end of the day, the materials that are being used in the watch are still very much over in applications. There is magnesium that was never used in watch before, rubber and ceramic. So it has still the values of the watchmaker.
So is it a smartwatch or a hybrid?
Smartwatch.
What do you call them? Like?
It is, we call it,
The clever watch? No?
yeah, it's a key.
intelligent.
Okay. So let us go back to the topic of e-commerce. It's a very popular topic when we talk about the effects of technology. Jean-Pierre, you provide your clients with the platforms to go online. So what's the recipe for a successful website, especially for luxury brands, to recreate this in-store experience?
Well, there's two things. First thing is you have to be where your customers want you to be. So if they want to shop online, you got to be online. If they want to shop mobile, you got to be mobile. That's the first thing. The second thing is that they're complementary spaces. Your physical store should not necessarily be, or your virtual store should not necessarily be a replication only of your physical store. There's a lot more that you can bring to the virtual space than you can to the physical space. So customer testimonials, customer authored videos wearing the products, experience sharing overall, that can really be enhanced online and participate in either driving customer to the physical store or just have them buy products online or mobilely. You know.
Kolia, you launched your e-commerce back in 2013, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, but it's really limited at Heuer. We adapt ourselves to the US market because not being online in the US, it's quite complicated. Even though the retail network is quite huge, it's one of the more mature markets. Why? Because the level of equipment is really high. The level of shipping, transportation, and logistics is really mature, so it's feasible. And in the US,
did sales increase?
Yes.
By how much?
But
may I ask?
I can't disclose this kind of information, but it's still a neglectable part of our turnover in the US.
Okay.
Because I think we didn't took it also in a serious way. We went there because we were forced, because the market forced us to go there, but we still have room for growth in those mature markets regarding technologies.
And how much of your budget is online currently? Before I move to Daniel with this question.
Where? In the
worldwide?
Worldwide? I can't disclose this kind of information.
Like, shall we assume within the average, what's the norm, 10%? Daniel?
Online sales, how many?
Online, the marketing budgets that goes online.
I would say there's been a huge amount of growth globally in terms of marketing investment moving towards digital. It's slowed slightly in terms of sort of desktop display advertising, but it's still in growth. So year on year, 10% growth. It's mobile where we're seeing a huge amount of growth. I think it's gone 34% increased year on year. Significant growths in investment towards digital. And I think this is great for luxury brands because you've got the ability in digital channels to be hugely personalised, you can be hugely targeted, you can reduce the wastage that you have in more mass media. But the role of that paid media is sort of changing slightly. It's almost like the doorway to much richer owned experiences. You have to be on your game when it comes to owned experiences, be it the store, content, social destinations, and of course your site. So using paid media as the doorway to those owned experiences, they need to be rich, personal, and and intuitive, and really kind of imbue the brand values. These all sort of sound like cliches, but we've been talking about moving into digital as if it's a choice. This is not a choice. Luxury brands need to move into digital. You're relinquishing.
But where exactly? YouTube? Is it Instagram when it comes to luxury?
I think the top 4 out of 5 research channels are digital, and that includes the brand site, that includes social media networks, it includes blogs and reviews, and it includes online video. You need to think about how to build your digital footprint in a way that is in keeping with your brand. These are key channels that you need to be in, and they're key channels that your customers are searching for information about you. I think it's something like 90% of luxury consumers are going online for information. 60-odd% are going in search to find information. 55% are looking on blogs. You know, this is happening. And if you don't act, then you end up with a substandard customer experience where someone else is telling your customers how to use your product, for example, on YouTube, which isn't ideal. Budgets need to move digital. They need to move in enhancing your owned experiences online. But that's not to say there isn't room for those big, prestigious, hero bits of media activity that are going to be seen by everyone. We still need fame. We still need that stature of a luxury brand. We can't get so targeted that no one knows we're there. So it's a blend, I think. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Kolia, did you want to add something?
Yeah, usually, and it's also a way going digital to fight counterfeiting. Because if you buy the right words, you are sure to appear the first one in the search module. And usually people go online, but they don't start by this basic who protects you from counterfeiting, and also to be sure that you will be top of mind.
Can I add something?
Yes.
And then what digital space, whether it be an online store or the digital media and everything, is what is allowing you is directly connecting to your consumer. In this world of globalization, you're literally getting to know, talking to them directly, understanding what they want, and telling them who you are. I don't think luxury should only focus on being the smartest or being tech savvy, but it's how these smart elements are used in offering the service. So it's not just what product you're offering online, it's what services you're offering, and how these smart elements are used online and in-store. Like I've seen a beautiful video the other day with Burberry where they're aiming to create a store, a physical store, but when the moment you walk in, it literally directs you to the things you like. You go to a hanger of a cloth, and then you see how many likes is on the cloth. You can see who's recommending it. You can see how can you do different options of dressings and what other people are saying on it. So this whole experience and using of digital in the way of how people experience your product is really, really important. Now, what online stores can offer you, because it's completely virtual, you can do whatever you can. You can customize. You can do it quick. You can show them what they're gonna see. You can, like Tom's, when you go on online, they allow you to try out the glasses right there. You know, so it's all about what services and how you use this technology rather than the technology being your ultimate goal. Because technologies, again, change. Today, it's Instagram and YouTube. Tomorrow, it's something else. We have Snapchat coming out now. And it's just, it changes. It changes so fast that the lifespan of it is so short to be very dependent on it. So also with watches, I'm not a watch person. I'm not in the watch industry. But the way I look at it, this is, for me, is now the beautiful thing about watches. It's now an accessory more than just telling the time. But then you have a new market where they're using the watches to tell the time and do other things. But then in the future, maybe it goes to something else. It could be a ring. It could be anything. It's just about how do you give people a way of doing more than they could. Now a car is more than a car. So it's what elements you bring into the market. So it's not competition as much as things are very much colliding into each other. But it's how you position yourself and how you be quick into tapping into this market and using this technology in the best way that it brings return to you.
I think you're right, but if we are talking about eye jewelry, for example, people, they don't want to be seen. They don't want to be known. They want to be invisible. So I think for premium luxury, this is perfectly valid.
Yeah.
For fashion, for watches to a certain level. But as soon as you are entering the true luxury, like Chanel, like Bulgari for the high-end jewelry, I think our customers, their customers, want some privacy.
Yeah.
And this is a big limitation. So I think we need first to segment the market and to identify the needs.
Not only privacy, I want to ask Manal about this issue. It's not only about privacy. I know my mom, if she goes into such a high-tech store, she would be lost. I mean, are we only catering here for the millennials, or it should be a hybrid store? Like you have the option of being or shopping in a high-tech way, and you have the option of just choosing regularly the stuff.
I think we're talking in general, really. But then if you walk into a Burberry store, the one on Regent Street, and it's fully automated, if you will, so they brought technology from the online world, they put it in their brick-and-mortar store. It's not meant to be for your mother. It's meant to be for people like us who want to interact, who are on Facebook all the time, who are sharing clothes with our friends to know what to wear this morning. So it's meant for a different generation. If you're going there to buy a trench, then you're probably going to find your trench in a corner there. So it really depends on who the target is, what the brand is about. Again, some brands have technology and have innovation at their core, so they need to embrace it by all means. And some brands are more about the timelessness of things, so they have to be a bit more reclusive in the way they approach it. So it depends a lot on what we're talking about. The whole time we were talking, and I mentioned my father's watch, I keep on thinking of Polaroid. When Polaroid first came out, it was the best camera ever. Everybody wanted it. Everybody had it. So I'm just always wary of us becoming Polaroids, of the watch becoming a Polaroid, and then it's very hard to bring it back. Although everybody's back into vinyl, people are back into organic, everything that's natural, they're not back into Polaroids fully yet. So that's the only thing we need to be mindful of, not to be too comfortable where we are with heritage, with the things that make us sit very comfortably where we are, saying that we're luxury and the privacy and all of that, because at one time we adored Polaroid. Now nobody wants to see it anymore. So that's just the watch out for everybody.
It's coming back. Polaroid is coming back. There are a
been
number of products on the
so
market.
long.
There are a number of products on the market which offer instant gratification. You take a selfie, you get it on paper, you can post it on the wall. Actually, you don't have to post it on the cloud.
Okay, so we still have around 5 minutes. So I want to ask you, Jean-Pierre, a last question before we take another question from the audience. It's in regards the mobile version of websites. We are seeing a trend, especially in the region, since it has one of the highest mobile penetration rate in the world. More and more queries are about luxury brands are done using mobile phones. So is this a worldwide trend, and do you think that brands should have a mobile-friendly version of their websites?
So it's a worldwide trend. I think Google came out with some numbers about a month and a half ago saying that there are actually more searches now on mobile devices than there were on desktops or even notebooks, first thing. Second thing is that it's going to happen in spite of brands if they don't need it. They're going to be led by their customers. You saw Chanel, for example, which was the most hashtagged brand on Instagram last year, without Chanel driving this. They didn't even have at Chanel the hashtag, and not controlling what was out there for their customers to see and the conversations their customers are carrying for them. So mobile, definitely, it's part of everyone's life. Today, and again, you've got to be where your customers are. So whether it's PC, notebook, tablet, television, print, and you see some of the online players going to print as well. Net-à-Porter having a physical paper magazine, which is actually printed. Amazon in a different space, opening physical stores, moving from the digital to the physical.
I will take one last question from the audience. Please go ahead. Please introduce yourself. I know you, but
you can stay seated, please. Please.
It's okay. I'm Layan from OMD. Do you think that e-commerce and too much accessibility is harming the image of luxury brands?
So, depend on your strategy. Sometimes, when you are a premium luxury brand, you need to be accessible. You need to be affordable. You need to spread the message. You need to, but at the same time, you need to be still desirable. And sometimes some brands are suffering of being endorsed too much by Chinese people, for example. Some European customers, they refuse to buy the brand because it's equal to Chinese customers. So we have to be extremely careful. This is a really good question, but I think it's more on a strategic level. And it's related to the brand strategy, mainly. But there's a risk.
Jean-Pierre?
Yeah, not necessarily related to online. I mean, I think Vuitton reached 85% penetration in Japanese household way before online. So this mass luxury happened before online commerce or availability of products became so pervasive.
We can take one last question. We have just 2 more minutes. Yes, please.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Vishirpul also from Both International Business School. My question is about the social platforms, and brands don't really have a control over it. I mean, yeah, Chanel might have 5 million followers, but how do you make that a tangible asset? How do you transition from that amount of followers to something that can actually benefit your brand in sales and other departments?
Manal, would you like to answer that?
I just have one example that can answer you. For example, Net-a-Porter just launched the Net Set, which is their social platform for selling, for communicating, for everything. So they basically took everything that's good about Facebook, everything that's good about Instagram, everything that's good about their own website, and they launched the Net Set. And they came out with a Net Set based on the hashtag that everybody was using. Whenever you'd buy something from Net-a-Porter, you'd take a picture of it and you'd hashtag the Net Set. So they took that and made it their own new platform. So you can't keep on controlling everything. You can't control every single conversation that's out there. But it's good to be very aware and to be able to maneuver it to the good of your brand. That's why you need community managers. You need people who are constantly on the pulse to know how to steer the conversation and bring it back to your own product and to your own good.
Please go ahead.
For example, I heard that a lot of successful and well-known Instagram accounts for luxury products are trying to transition their fan base from a platform where they have no control, like Instagram or Snapchat, to a private app where they do have control over the data that comes in and stuff like that. Do you think this is also applied to the luxury brands such as Chanel and Vuitton and things like that?
It's not really.
The app will eventually.
It doesn't feel in the spirit of the social networks that you've name checked, like Snapchat and Instagram, of taking it offline. I think the beauty of social is it allows you to follow the behaviours and the networks and the communities that people are kind of creating, and they're connecting with one another. To go and create this closed thing over here to my mind, is something a little bit different. I think there's a lot of buzz around social media. Where should we be? What should we be doing? And I think we often forget what is our strategy, what we're trying to achieve. If we want to create a community of aspirational fans, then we should be on Facebook. If we want to give our customers the opportunity to suggest and make requests, we should be on Twitter. If we want to just visually showcase what we're doing, we should be on Pinterest, we should be on Instagram and Snapchat, etc. Let's think about what we're trying to achieve as a brand, and then use the most appropriate channel. I don't think it's a recommendation of be everywhere. It's be on the right channel and in the right way for you as a brand, and be really consistent. Work out what your personality is within social media and be consistent with it, and be very responsive, because there's a lot of brands out there, non-luxury and luxury, who have kind of made a few mistakes, I think, and have fallen foul of trying to do the latest thing rather than staying true to what they are as a brand.
Thank you all. Our time is up, unfortunately. I want to thank my esteemed guests for these insights that we heard today. It's really an eye-opener about the future of the luxury market. Thank you for participating in this session. Please feel free to ask your questions, maybe with the guests outside, if we didn't answer all of them. Thanks.
Thank you.